Hi, I'm the founder and CEO of Harlem America Digital Network and the host of What's Hot Harlem America with G. Keith Alexander. That's me. Now, if you're a Labelle fan, then you're going to really enjoy listening to this week's podcast with the legendary Miss Sarah Dash.
Welcome to What's Hot Harlem America with G. Keith Alexander. The crossroads where culture, lifestyle, and community meet. All hosted by the legendary New York radio TV personality and proud Harlem American, G. Keith Alexander.
Hey, welcome to What's Hot Harlem America with G. Keith Alexander. And I just want to say I am so happy that you are joining us today because we've got a wonderful conversation that we're going to have today with Miss Sarah Dash. Now, let me tell you, Sarah Dash defines the word legend. As an award-winning vocalist, songwriter, motivational speaker, educator, entrepreneur, and humanitarian, Sarah is a unique force whose voice has touched millions of listeners around the world. From co-founding Patti LaBelle and the Bluebells and making history as a member of Labelle to becoming the very first music ambassador of Trenton, New Jersey. Sarah has blazed a trail in every facet of her remarkable career, and she joins us today on What's Hot Harlem America with G. Keith Alexander. Welcome, Sarah.
Hello, G. Keith Alexander. How are you?
I'm doing quite well. Thank you very, very much. And as you can see, I've got this broad smile on my face as I see you and getting ready to talk with you. So, recently you just enjoyed a birthday
Yes.
and it's a milestone birthday. How do you feel about that?
Well, you're only 75 once in
But
your
that's
life,
true. That's true.
and I take it from a spiritual place right now.
Hmm.
I'm elated, and I'm so thankful to God that He has given me this time on earth. So my feelings are I'm still doing what I do, bearing in mind what we're facing, pandemic and all. And because I have this quiet time, I'm asking my higher power, and that means God, what would you have me to do next for the next 25 years?
Has he told you yet?
Excuse me?
Has he told you yet?
Well, every day there's something that I didn't do yesterday. So that's part of the direction. But I think what has really enhanced my thought process
Hmm.
regarding the age is to continue to do good and to do better, to be better, to go further into the humanitarian side of helping people and also not to forget about self.
Well, very, very good. So now, in this stage of your life, you're still very active. You are the ambassador of music for Trenton, New Jersey. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I was with Mayor Eric Jackson, who appointed me originally. Um, he, we were talking about my position being governor for the Grammys, and he had just been elected to the city of Trenton as mayor. And the very first time I met him, he reminded me, first time meeting him, I was at a rally for Mother's Day. And he said, I turned around and looked at him and said, you may be running for mayor now. Uh, you may not win your race now, but you are one day going to be mayor of Trenton. And he said it stuck with him. And he continued in the next process of running, the next candidate. What do you call it? Candidate, when you're a candidate and you're
Campaign, and you're running the campaign.
campaigning for the next 4 years. And he said, as a result of that, I want to make you music of ambassador for music and arts for the city of Trenton. And some call me the capital ambassador, some call me Trenton's ambassador. But what we have been trying to do with that title and that name was to continue to work from the arts and music direction of the city. Trenton used to be the market for entertainers to come through. Say if you were playing New York and you had a stopover point, it would be Trenton, and then you would go to Philadelphia.
Hmm.
So Mayor Jackson didn't, at the time that he appointed me, he had one more year in office. When Mayor Reed, who is now the current mayor, Reed Garciara, um, decided that I should continue my ambassadorship under his mayorship. So I'm here to do that now.
Fantastic. Now let's talk about being that you are the music ambassador. Let's talk about where it all comes from. So tell us about what I've always wondered was how did the change come from Patti LaBelle and the Bluebells to Labelle with those fabulous space outfits and and looking all beautiful and svelte and all that stuff? How did that happen?
You mean when I had a waistline?
Oh yes, when you had a waistline.
Well, we actually, Patti LaBelle and the Bluebells had gotten stale. We've been playing all these places that wasn't really making a change in our life. But in the meantime, we were um, traveling and was able to go to the UK to do a very special show produced by a woman named Vicki Wickham. And the name of that show was called Ready, Steady, Go. We stayed in touch with Vicki, and as things began to get stale, I at the time didn't do a lot of phone calls. You know, you had what phone booths, but I was a writer. I loved to write letters and thank you notes, as my mother and father trained me to do. So I wrote to Vicki and said, we're at a stale point. I don't know what we're going to do. She said, what are the dates are you going to do? I'll be in New York soon. One of them was the Apollo. And Smokey Robinson was on the show. He was the headliner, and she said, I'm bringing some people there to meet you. I think to see you. I think you all should, think about a new direction. Those people were the management of Who. We got on that stage. We tried to burn that stage down. With us, bearing in mind that the old management wasn't working when we needed new management. And Smokey didn't speak to us for a long time, but we 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 did a wonderful show. And with that, they decided to take us to London. When we went to London, we stayed there nearly a year or more, and we came back, and we now are not going to be Patti LaBelle and the Bluebells. We are now simply called LaBelle. And Vicki Wickham, as the Who management no longer worked for us, Vicki Wickham continued as our partner and manager. And with that, we started dressing with individual styles. Uh, our individual personalities came through. And yet we were not singing like a lead singer and two background singers. We were singing with a force that each one of us may have been leading a song, but within the notes that we were singing. And there was a designer by the name of Larry Legaspi who would come to see us. He had a store called Moonstone, hence the space clothes,
Ah,
Moonstone.
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yes. And he was the creator of all those styles, the feathers and the piping. And we were innovators at that time because there are a lot of artists now, Black artists, who decided that they could also not wear the same shoes and the same gowns and wigs. And as you see artists today, and that is the result of the work that LaBelle did, you know.
Do you remember how we met or when we met?
Yes, I remember what I was wearing that night as well.
Really? Tell me, because
I was wearing a white leather halter top dress that had a picture of a rose going up the side and around the front of my dress. We were appearing at a place called, it wasn't the Met. What was it?
the
Oh,
Village
Avery
Gate?
Fisher Hall.
Oh, Avery Fisher Hall. Okay.
Yes. And that's when I met you the first time.
Really? Wow.
Yes.
Because I've been trying to figure out when we met. Uh, you know, I did not know that you were a cougar.
I was a what?
A cougar.
A cougar?
Yes.
Oh,
How? Yeah. How long did we date?
how old would I have been?
No, 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 no. How long did you and I go out?
We went out about 2 days.
About 2 days.
Irene Gandy did that to us. She's the one who introduced us.
See, I was trying to piece it all together, but
Yes,
I could not figure out where we met, how we met. But I do know that when you guys were down at the Village Gate on Mondays, I used to come down,
yes.
and I used to enjoy watching and being there with you guys, and being back in the dressing room.
But
Uh,
let's get back to this cougar business. What are you talking about? You didn't know it was a
well,
cougar.
well, I mean,
I mean, you know, all of with the exception of my first husband, most of the men were younger than me because I have a young spirit, as you can see.
yes, yes.
I don't associate relationships with age. I
Hmm.
really associate them with character
There you
and
go.
with spirit and with how the respectful level of how one approaches you know each other. So I could hang out. Most of my friends, or I should say people that I know, are younger than me. All of them are. I mean, I have such a great relationship with all the grandnieces and nephews
Hmm.
in my family, and um, I get along with people of all ages, but I'm constantly around younger people because I'm sort of a teacher type person, kind of mentor type personality. Um, I'll tell you what to do. I'm not bossy, but I'll be honest with you. Oh, cougar.
Well,
I think I'll nickname myself that. Very
now,
dash.
well, now let's talk about Centerman.
Centerman. Yes.
Centerman was after you left the group, or
Yes.
you guys decided to kind of separate for a little while to do your own solo projects. Uh, how did
For a
Centerman
while.
come about?
How did Centerman come about? Well,
Yes.
actually, when we split as a group, I was the last one to be signed to a label.
Hmm.
Um, there was, and that was with Don Kirshner, and it was Kirshner Records. Kirshner, and his wife Sheila were also friends, and I used to go to baseball games with them because they had the best seats in the house.
Hmm.
So I made sure I was always invited to go with Sheila and Donnie to see the baseball games. And Donnie was like asking me, when are you going to record? And I said, no one wants me. The demos that I did was horrifying. They were horrific. They were not, um, I wasn't pleased with them. I went along with them because at that point we were all talking about, oh, we're going to do solo stuff.
Hmm.
I I was mainly a person, a singer who backed up voices, although some of us did lead and do lead. But anyway, I got with Kirshner and he signed me. But for 6 months, we worked on learning songs, teaching me new songs, going back to some of the old songs, doing small cabaret clubs. And he trained me, his writers, group of writers and producers. But the last night before a closing of the show, he sent two writers down to see me, and that was Carol George and Rob Hago. And they saw this little woman running around the stage. I was singing some song about, you know, are you lonely tonight? And they said all they could think about was this center man, and I should not. And I'm telling them, don't touch me. So that was the last song that was written for my solo album, and the first song I recorded. I did Center Man in one take. That's how well rehearsed I was. So when you listen to Center Man, it's a one take song.
Very interesting.
Recording, rather.
Very interesting. So, okay, so from Center Man, how did you get with the Rolling Stones? I mean, that had to be a blessing, a leap. How did that happen?
Well, Patti LaBelle and the Bluebells did the Rolling Stones' first American and Canadian tour. We opened for them back in the 60s, late 60s. And as a result of that, Keith and I were always sort of like the buddies during the tour. You know, we had the chaperone and manager, but we that, you know, we were buddies.
What shall I say to hide it?
When we went to Europe, the Stones would always come and see us because, you know, we worked with them. But I was one day was asked to come to the record company to have a holiday drink with the president of CBS Records. And when I got there, they weren't ready for me. And so I said, well, who's he in there with? They said, Keith. I said, tell Keith I'm outside. Keith comes out. He says, you're the voice I want for Keith Richards and the Expensive Winos. I said, are you sure you don't want me to call Patty? You know, and he's like, no, I want your voice. Wow. And with that, he said, I'm going away for the holidays. I'll call you. Came back and he called me. I went to the studio, recorded a duet called Make No Mistake. We toured, we did 3 world tours as the Expensive Winos. And the latest edition, they're releasing a new box edition next month, in fact, November. In fact, I have it here with me. But it's a new box edition with a photo album book, all the recordings we ever did. And that is Keith Richards and Expensive Winos. So I morphed over into recording with the Rolling Stones. And I'm on Steel Wheels, a platinum selling CD. So that's how I got my size 6 feet over to the Stones.
Well, that's fantastic. We have about 30 seconds left before we go to break. And I just want to take this time to say hello to the folks up in Canada who listened to us last week on our show. We had according to our analytics, we had about 469 people in Canada listening to us. We also had people in China, Ireland, Jamaica, and France. So I just want to give a shout out to those folks. Continue to listen. Please spread the word and let folks know that they can check us out every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific time. And this is What's Hot, Harlem, America with G. Keith Alexander. And we'll be right back.
Tune in every Friday to get your weekend kickoff early. Join the legendary G. Keith Alexander for What's Hot, Harlem, America. The flagship show of the new Harlem America Digital Network has something for everyone. From the latest in entertainment to empowerment, health and wellness, and more. We'll bring you a variety of fresh viewpoints, voices, and ideas. What's Hot, Harlem, America with G. Keith Alexander can be heard every Friday at 1 p.m. in New York and 10 a.m. Pacific time on the Voice America Variety Channel.
Thank you so very, very much. We're here with the wonderful Sarah Dash, a legend in her own making. I
My
mean,
own making.
yes. I mean, all the work that you've done and everything, you've
Okay.
made yourself a legend. You know, all the wonderful hits and things. So let me ask you: we're here on Harlem, America,
Yeah,
and you've been to Harlem many times. What
I
do you
have.
like? What do you enjoy about Harlem?
Well, being called the sweethearts of the Apollo, as Patti LaBelle and Bluebells we were, we spent a great deal in Harlem. I always enjoy the soul of the people. Um, there was always something going on in Harlem when we were there. There were people coming by with hot goods, one time a man stole, he was stealing shoes so fast he bought all right shoes and the left. I mean, this is always something. But the Apollo Theater is actually it was the heart of Harlem. And people got to come to Harlem because of the Apollo. Wouldn't you agree?
I would agree
Yeah,
wholeheartedly.
and then you had Smalls, those nightclubs. You had Wells, where you could go get wonderful chicken and waffles. We would, even though I lived on the Upper West Side downtown in the 70s, if I was home on the weekends and sometimes during the week, we would just take a car uptown to Wells and get chicken and waffles, or there was always some blues person to see at Smalls, Paradise, um, and just to walk the streets. Everyone in Harlem knew you.
Hmm.
If you were a performer, if you played the Apollo, they knew who you were. It's just, it was just wonderful. It was like being home outside of your home. Um,
Wow.
and so many wonderful things and people, have come from Harlem, you know.
Well, speaking of Harlem,
Yes.
which you've given me a wonderful segue into this public service announcement I'd like to do for the community. The Greater Chamber The Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce continues to work tirelessly through the pandemic experience in concert with our medical, education, business, banking, elected officials, nonprofits, and individual partners to provide much needed services to support those most severely impacted by the pandemic, social inequalities, systemic racism, and economic challenges. The Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce has created a GoFundMe campaign, Support Harlem Now, assisting our senior citizens, children, students, small businesses, food banks, the homeless, arts and culture, not-for-profits, and many families in need. So if you'd like to help, you can go to greaterharlemchamber.com, greaterharlemchamber.com for more information. Harlem is a wonderful place, and that's why we have What's Hot Harlem America with G. Keith Alexander. And today we're so fortunate to have Miss Sarah Dash. You know, Sarah, there is something else I'm remembering, and I want to remember if it's accurate or not. Do you remember when Stevie Wonder had Superstition? That was his hit. And we gave a Stevie Wonder concert at a place on 79th and Broadway called the Asu Soul. It was down in like you had to go down the stairs. Were you there? People told me you were there. I didn't see you because it was jam packed, very crowded. Do you remember that? Were you there at all?
I often went to Stevie Wonder's concerts, and I do remember in fact, I sat at the table with Vi Higginson that night, I believe. Yes,
Okay, great. Now,
yes.
okay, because some people told me that you were there, and I said, where? I didn't see her. And all these years, I've never really,
I
uh,
didn't know you were there.
and well, I was the host.
You're right, right. But I didn't know you were, I should say, I didn't know you were coming.
Ah,
But the problem was, I got sick
Mhm.
and I had to leave right at the top of the show.
That
That's
I
what
heard.
happened.
That I heard. I heard that.
Yes, I
Eh,
had to go. I had to
Yeah.
go. And I lived on 77th and West End, so I didn't
Mhm.
have far to go. But yeah, so I
Steve,
had to leave that night. Yes.
Stevie played Superstition 9 times that night.
See, I
He,
missed all of that.
I mean, he would. It would come to an end, and he would start all over again, and everybody
Yeah.
just went crazy. And people were standing on tables, and you know, the crowd. I mean, it was great. So okay, so you just confirmed that for me that you were there. I always
Yes.
wondered about that. Uh, is there anything going on in your life right now that you'd like to let us know about?
Yeah,
That
there are a few things going on. I'm writing my memoirs.
hmm.
I've um, got like 5 chapters done so far.
Hmm.
Don't know when it's coming out, but I'm working on them. You will
You'll say
in
some.
that book. Yeah,
You'll say some nice things about me though in your memoirs, right?
I'm telling the truth about
Oh.
everything that I have experienced. Um, the voice on Centerman is Jerry Butler. Come here, baby.
Oh
Jerry
wow.
Butler told me to tell my story through the eyes of Sarah Gash, not to be affected by what someone would want to hear, because he said in reading it, people will be able to know whether you're telling the truth or making it up.
Mhm.
And as a performer, you have such we have such sensational lives, I will say, and I've come to find that out, having to stay in. It's like, oh, I have to do the laundry, but anyway, we have stories that are, people just don't believe that they have existed. You really went through that. I mean, missing flights that crash,
Wow.
and the purpose behind it. So that's one of the things that I'm doing. I'm also working on new music. I've talked to Steve Jordan. If you're listening, we're talking about doing a different sound. Well, it's actually the sound that Steve Jordan and Keith Richards always got me to sing, the
Mhm.
tone. If you listen to the recordings that I did with the Expensive Winos, we are going back to that um, sound, and I hope that my fans and people who support my work will also support this sound that I'm about to attempt to do, and that takes me to a place where um, a song called "Don't Make Me Wait" I did with Ray Goodman and Brown
Mhm.
about, what, 6 years ago. Well, they released it, and it's um, a someone called it a lost gem, and that sound in my voice is what you're going to hear in the new phase of my musical life. I'm also painting, you
Oh.
know, getting to, my paintbrushes. They're still in my classroom. But I work with Sprout U. I'm the music administrator, director rather, and one of the school's administrators. And that's a school here in Trenton. So I direct their vocal talents, and aside from that, I still teach. I'm also about to create a new music program, a historical program for another college here in New Jersey,
Mhm.
as the program that I created for the College of New Jersey was such a success. They decided to put me on the college magazine, and that won the national magazine cover. We beat out Yale and Harvard. Um,
Oh.
Picture with me on there. So that encouraged me to work more with students, to create more, to give more knowledge about the history of artists, and particularly Black artists, where we, a lot of times, we haven't always been given the credit that we deserve, for the work that we've done. We are the root of music, and that is one of the things that I will never ever let anyone forget when I'm teaching. I'm also a motivational speaker, as you know. And the last program that I spoke at was a church in DC for National Women's History Day. And that just to be able to get on stand at a podium and talk about, how I have been blessed and the many things that I've gone through. It's something that, I will continue to do when this is lifted again. And we're able to socialize.
You're on the governing body of the Grammys.
Yes, I termed out actually last June, in
You
June.
did. Well, tell us, is there anything about the Grammys that we don't know that the public would enjoy hearing about the inside, or the inside workings of the Grammy?
The workings?
Yes.
Well, being a governor, we represent all the people who are in our chapter. I mean, with the Philadelphia chapter. And as a governor, we sit there and we hear the changes that will affect the musicians and the singers. We get those. We get the information about what the new technologies will be, what new producers are online, are coming out, the new artists and what they're doing. We also embellish. No, we don't embellish. What we do, we embrace the city that we represent, and we try to get involved in programs that are a part of the Philadelphia chapter. We had people who sat on the board who went to different schools, who sat with the city and changed some programs. Deanna Williams was president of the chapter, changed, brotherly love and the city of brotherly love and sister affection. She's changed that. We, within the inner workings, we sit and we talk about the issues that can only help not just artists, but the music and total community, how our artistry affects the community. Um, when it comes time, I'm a voting member. I take it very serious. If you submit your work to the Grammy and you are a member, we as voting members have an opportunity to listen, and it's really, our taste not goes because we know you, but it's because of the quality of work. And I take that very seriously. I sit on the advocacy board. I was there. We go to our constituency politics, that is, once a year, and we sit there and we tell them about the problems that we have, not being able to collect our royalties from offshore. Uh, been placing bills on the floor during this pandemic time, so that artists who have no income right now, I'm one of them, you know, um, and we are we're going to the government and saying, you have to take care of art form. This is an art form that is part of America, and to get funding to help those who really need it. So that's the Grammys. We call it the Recording Academy as well. We have a new CEO, an interim, who is Harvey Mason, who is a fantastic producer, and he's worked with Michael Jackson, so many artists. And he came in as a chair, but now, because of the problems we had last year, he stepped in to be the interim CEO. And they're making great leaps and bounds and changes. and how women are affected in the industry. There was a complaint about that. So now we're recognizing and we're lifting them up. You know, we as women are now being recognized by the Recording Academy in such a beautiful way. There are trustees, you know, there's membership committees, there's nominating committees. So all these things are vital right now, and they're becoming um, into light as to how much we, who are members and longtime members, care about other artists.
Wow. So, so when the Grammys are, when people are nominated for the Grammys, is that because you're one of the people who've had to listen to the music to make a decision who's going to be nominated? How does that work?
When an artist is nominated, it's because their work has been submitted. We base our decisions based upon the quality of work, the work, the not because we, like I said, it's because I like you or I, you know, it's really down to the quality of the work that you present. Um, and it's down to if you don't submit your song, we can't nominate you or you can't be nominated. You have to, there's a process that you go through
Mm-hmm.
to submit a record that you have out. Um, if you put a song out and it has not been, um, if you haven't put it in to be nominated, you have 5 years to submit a song once it's been released.
Oh,
Um, and anytime within the 5 year period, you
mm-hmm.
submit your song to have to be recognized.
I see. I see. All
Yeah.
right. So, and in that process, we got about 2 minutes left, but in that process of being nominated, is there a fee that someone's got to also, when they send their record in, they have to pay a fee in order to be nominated, or how does that work? I've always wondered
No,
about that.
there's no fee.
There's no
If you're
fee.
a member, you're already paying membership dues.
Okay,
So
got you.
it's if you're a member, most likely you will be submitting your records or your music to be selected, and it
Okay.
goes through a process. I just finished voting in the first round. It took me nearly 4 hours to, you know, go through the different categories
Mhm.
to, and I can't tell you who I voted for. I can't, you know, that can't happen. But there, in a couple categories, there are over thousands of um, records submitted to us,
Wow.
and
And you have to
some
sit.
you don't
You have,
know, some you do know, and you listen, and you say,
wow.
"Wow, that's a great song," you know.
Wow, incredible. Well, we've got about 30 seconds left before we go to the break, and I want to tell you I'm really enjoying this conversation with you. And when we come back, I'm going to ask you some questions that it might be a little personal, but we will see. So, ladies
Well,
and gentlemen,
I'm here to view and spew.
all right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us, and don't go away. We'll be right back with What's Hot Harlem America with G. Keith Alexander.
Tune in every Friday to get your weekend kickoff early. Join the legendary G. Keith Alexander for What's Hot Harlem America. The flagship show of the new Harlem America Digital Network has something for everyone. From the latest in entertainment to empowerment, health and wellness, and more, we'll bring you a variety of fresh viewpoints, voices, and ideas. What's Hot Harlem America with G. Keith Alexander can be heard every Friday at 1 p.m. in New York and 10 a.m. Pacific Time on the Voice America Variety Channel.
Well, I just want to say that, I want to give a shout out to all the folks in Harlem and New York listening to us right now. And while I'm doing that, I want to again say hello and acknowledge the people listening in Canada, in China, Ireland, Jamaica, and in France and other places. And I want to remind you guys that you can stay connected from work, home, and on the road please remember to add the Harlem America Digital Network's What's Hot Harlem America with G. Keith Alexander to your iPhone and iPad. And all you have to do is just download the official Voice America Talk Radio Network app. It's at the Apple Store. It's easy to use. It's always free, and you can tell a friend. And I just want to thank you in advance for downloading it, okay? And now we're with the wonderful Sarah. We've been having a great time here. And now, Sarah, I want to, get a little personal here. What are some of the fun times, exciting times that you've had with Labelle? You guys either on the road or off the road. What are some of the fun times that you guys have had together, the memorable times?
Yeah, we having spent so many years together, we grew up together. We started out with the chaperone and the manager, and that was the only way our parents, well, my parents was willing to let me go on the road. Had to have that. And we set a precedence for other record companies and sending out teenage girls to in the industry. We played tricks on people. Uh, we would get Nona to act as if she was having a seizure. I know it's so cool. And because Nona was endowed, so
Yes.
it was like we would get her to pretend she was having a seizure. And Patty and I would run around, get a spoon, get a spoon. And we had nothing to do in between shows at the Apollo or at whatever theater it was. And our boredom ran into teasing people or making pretend that we were in problems. And we always did it when our chaperone and manager went out to get our dinner or our lunch. And they come back and they see people like Chuck Jackson and the Temptations going, I'll never speak to them anymore. And that was because Nona would pretend she was falling out and shaking and frothing at the mouth. And we run and go, we need help, we need help. Well, she did it to Bob Schiffman of the Apollo.
Right. Okay. Bob.
And so he was so furious with us. Meanwhile, we're the sweethearts there, and we did this horrible thing to him. But so we go to Europe and we come back, and we actually landed in New York, and that very next day we were opening the Apollo. Well, Bobby Schiffman had his detective friends come up to our dressing room and tell Nona she was under arrest because they thought she bought some drugs or something back from Europe, and they would have to detain her, and they walked her through the audience and down through the front. So all the people were saying, what did she do? And Patty's running around going, she didn't do anything. We never do drugs. We never do anything. Bobby Schiffman had them open the side door and pull the wagon up as if they were going to take Nona away. We were all crying and screaming. That ended that whole time of playing that trick on people. We never played it again.
Wow.
It was a horrible thing to do,
Incredible. Well,
But we were children, And as adults, growing up, Patty got married, I got married. And, we still had that child thing in us, childlike behavior. When we're together, nobody else is in the room when the three of us are together. And we've had some great times. We've had some slow times.
mhm.
It was feast or famine for a while with us in the industry. And, we had to put our quarters and pennies together. But we always knew that no matter what, we had each other's backs, with no matter what. We could talk about each other. But if someone came in and said, oh, no, you would get your head bitten. You could not do that. And you still can't do that till this day.
Well,
Yeah.
well, okay. So during that time of Lady Marmalade.
Yes.
Uh, was Patty cooking then backstage? When did that start? That
Well,
Patty
we
become
were
famous for
tired of
cooking?
restaurant food, and one day I just said, I'm going to buy um, a teapot or something. I don't like the way they make their coffee. And from that, our chaperone said, I'm going to cook some food. And then we would started staying in hotels where we could cook. And Pat made the best, still this day, the best fried chicken ever that I've ever tasted. Um, she started cooking. We would come to, we would be rehearsing, and a lot of times the rehearsals would be at my house because I had the piano, which you know,
Mhm.
and we would rehearse at my apartment, and we would cook there. And Pat started; she would make the best chili, and we were just loving the food. And then we would have card games, and Vivian Reed would make the best macaroni salad. We were, it's always someone cooking. I did a lot of soul food, old school, as they call it, cooking, the red beans and the ham hocks when I was,
Wow.
and, but Patty was always a good cook. And she had such a innovative mind, with her cooking. Who knew it would lead to her being the Black Martha Stewart, you know?
Yeah. You know what, Patty? If you're listening, Patty, I can see another product for you. Patty's Chicken. Okay, so
She does have, I think, chicken and dumplings, I believe.
oh
She has
really?
that. Yeah. So we're doing your commercial, Patty. She also has popcorn. She has the cobblers and the pies, Patty
Wow.
pies.
Really? Wow. I've yet to have a patty pie, and I know that they're very good because I've had friends tell me about them, but I don't
Mm.
even know where to get them. You know, but I
But you're gonna
understand.
you're gonna see a cookbook from me soon.
Oh, really? Oh, good,
Yeah,
good,
that's
good, good.
another project that I'm working on, and a book of poetry
Mhm.
is coming soon too.
Oh, great. So,
Yeah.
so you are still very active and still, uh, uh, I guess, growing and becoming still. The chapter of your book has not been closed yet. You're
I
still you're still writing that chapter.
I think it will always be a chapter written each at the end of each week. I journalize every day. I journalize my dreams. I remember your mom sending some information about dreams.
You
If
remember
you
that,
wake
huh?
up in the middle of the night at a certain hour,
Hmm.
what the meaning of your dreams would mean when you woke up, you sent that to me from her once.
Right.
Um, um, so I've been journalizing a lot more since the pandemic. But it's really important that you follow that spirit that you have when it comes to creativity, and be open for doors to open for you.
Hmm. Hmm.
So every day there's something new to think about in terms of, having a chapter. There is no there are chapters, but the book is still open as long as you're alive. You know, there's always something that someone will call you about. Um, I enhanced my studies for theology, and I became a chaplain, which I'm a chaplain now.
Oh, really?
Yes. And I did it without telling anyone that I was doing these particular studies. And I had an accident, and I was in a cast, and my sister picked up my mail, and she's like, "There's something in here, but it's wet." And she turns around, she looks at me, she says, "This certifies you as a chaplain? You never told me that you were studying to be a chaplain." I write prayers daily for people and send them to my family and friends. I find affirmations that might be appropriate for someone's life, or I just let the Spirit guide me as to what to send to
Hmm.
others. And
Hmm.
so I felt if I could write a prayer, then let me certify myself in this society, and I became a chaplain. You know,
Wow.
because my dad was a pastor. I'm a PK.
Oh, okay.
You know, and
For
I
those
might
who don't
mention
know,
I was, yeah.
for those
So
who don't
I
know what a
grew up with the
PK is,
Bible.
yeah, for those who don't know what a PK is, it's a pastor's kid. Is that it?
Yeah, preacher's kid, pastor's
Preacher's
kid.
kid. Okay.
Yes. And my mom, she was in the field of nursing
Hmm.
after having 13 children. So I had great
Wow.
guides. Hmm?
13 children?
I'm number 7 of 13 children.
Cheese and crackers.
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
Most people think I'm an only child because I'm a brat sometimes. But, but yes. So I had great teachers. I had, growing up in the home. I'm actually in the home that I grew up in right now. I
Mhm.
restored it.
Oh, nice.
But I had wonderful teaching guides from my parents. Watching my father, as a preacher, the various businesses that he involved himself in. He was a scrap and metal man, which was very rare for black men. Real estate, and the word had never left his lips. He's the father of the state of New Jersey. I'm the Bishop of Honor. He would have us praying in the morning growing up at 6 o'clock in the morning. We were on our knees in this
Really?
living room, you know. Eventually that stopped because I don't know what my mom said, but I can only imagine, all the bathrobes, all the come downstairs, and, you can imagine what kind of talks they had
And,
having
and,
the amount of children.
and that was before you went to school in the morning.
And that was before I went to school in the morning.
Wow.
So, the they told the funny stories are they told we ran into a woman who knew us as children, and she said that whenever we arrived at the church, we would come in and we had our own pew, and we fluffed out our dresses, and no one else could sit on that pew with us. There were 9 girls, you know, and we wouldn't let anyone touch our clothes. We had our little gloves. You didn't touch us in church. You could not.
Wow.
Come home dirty, you have a problem. You know.
Well, Sarah,
Yes.
we've got about a minute and a half left, and
Yes.
I want to tell you that this has really been a pleasure to sit with you and talk with you and laugh with you. And I'm very happy that things are going very well for you. You did mention something about a mild depression that
Michelle
Michelle.
Obama, she made it comfortable for us to admit that having to stay in, she made it all right by saying there's low grade depression. So I don't know whether I have it or not, but I would think I would. Because staying in, I have underlying conditions, one being my age, and the other, I found out a couple years ago that I'm diabetic. So I have to stay in. And when I go to the dentist, I have 14 days of quarantine, after which it's just the doctor is the same thing. I've started many projects in this home, but,
Well,
you know,
Well, Sarah, I'm sorry. We're going to have to leave it right there because I'm going to have to close. But this has been
oh,
wonderful. And thank you so very, very much. And I
thank
want
you and love you all. The Dash family, love you all. I love you all of you who are listening. Thank you. Support Keith when he comes back on next Friday.
to thank you
Tell him
very
to have me
much.
back on once a month. No, just kidding.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great day and a better one tomorrow. And I'll see you next week at the same time on Harlem, America with What's Hot, Harlem, America with G. Keith Alexander. Thank you. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.